In February of 1974, on a narrow jungle road in the Philippines, a group of men stood frozen, not moving, not speaking, unsure whether they were witnessing a miracle or a mistake. From the trees, slowly, deliberately, a figure emerged. He looked impossibly out of place. His uniform was faded but intact, stitched and restitched with care. His rifle was clean, oiled, ready. His boots were cracked with age, yet polished perfectly. He stood straight, disciplined, alert. Then he saluted. The war had ended 29 years earlier. Hiroo Onoda did not know. Or rather, he knew something else more strongly, because what kept Onoda in the jungle was not ignorance. It was certainty. In 1944, when Hiroo Onoda was 22 years old, Japan was already losing World War II. But defeat had not yet become something you could say out loud. Onoda was trained as an intelligence officer, not a frontline soldier, not a martyr. His training focused on sabotage, evasion, patience, and psychological endurance. Most importantly, he was trained never to surrender, but not in the way history usually tells it. He was explicitly told not to die, not to launch suicidal attacks, not to sacrifice himself for symbolism. His role was survival. His mission was continuity. His final orders were simple and terrifying. Do not surrender. Do not take your own life. Do not act independently. Remain operational until officially relieved. No expiration date, no backup plan, no clause for defeat. Onoda was sent to Lubang Island in the Philippines, a small, strategically insignificant place that would soon become the center of his entire universe. His task was to disrupt enemy operations, gather intelligence, and resist occupation for as long as necessary. If communication stopped, it was temporary. If reinforcements never came, he would wait. If years passed, he would endure, because relief would come, eventually. Then, the war collapsed. American forces advanced rapidly. Japanese units retreated, or disintegrated. Radios went silent. Supply drops stopped arriving. Command structures simply vanished. On Lubang Island, Onoda and a few other soldiers withdrew into the jungle, assuming this was just the next phase. Guerrilla warfare, delay, resistance. Then, the leaflets came, dropped from planes, scattered across jungle paths, villages, fields, written in Japanese. They announced surrender. They claimed the emperor had spoken. They promised safety. Onoda studied them, slowly, carefully, and dismissed them, because deception was expected. Psychological warfare was doctrine. Announcing surrender would be the perfect trick to flush out remaining soldiers. To Onoda, the leaflets weren't comforting. They were suspicious. Time changed after that. Days were no longer counted forward. They were endured. Seasons arrived without ceremony. The jungle erased progress. No calendars, no clocks, no news. One by one. Onoda's companions disappeared. Some surrendered, convinced the war was truly over. Some were killed in encounters with patrols. Some simply vanished into the forest and never returned. Eventually, Onoda was alone, not dramatically, practically. He adjusted his routines, spoke less, moved less, made fewer mistakes. Solitude was not an emotional problem. It was a tactical condition. He did not live in the jungle. He operated within it. He rotated camps constantly, cleaned his rifle every single day, even when ammunition was scarce. He repaired his uniform by hand, stitching discipline into fabric, tracked weather, moon cycles, crop seasons. Food was taken only when necessary, conflict avoided when possible. Villages were observed from a distance, their rhythms memorized, their movements catalogued. Years passed. Then, more years. The jungle aged him quietly. Nights were colder than expected. Moisture never left the body. Skin cracked. Fevers came and went. Injuries healed, slowly, imperfectly. There were no mirrors. Onoda never saw himself grow old. He measured time by survival. Meanwhile, the world moved on. Japan rebuilt itself. Television entered homes. New generations grew up with no memory of the war. Humans walked on the moon. On Lubang Island, Hiroo Onoda still conducted patrols. As technology advanced, so did the attempts to reach him. Better leaflets, radio broadcasts, names of family members, even precise references to current events. Onoda did not relax. He grew more careful. A sophisticated enemy, he reasoned, would use sophisticated lies. Isolation does not break people immediately. First, it removes correction. No one remained to contradict him. No authority left to override orders. No evidence strong enough to outweigh a command given decades earlier. So meaning had to be preserved. Internally. Routine became resistance. Endurance became identity. Survival became proof that the mission still mattered. The jungle became a closed system. A world where the war could never end, because nothing external was allowed to redefine it. This is where the story becomes uncomfortable, because Onoda's presence was not harmless. Over the years, civilians were killed, farmers shot, villages lived in fear of an invisible soldier who should not have existed anymore. Onoda did not see civilians. He saw enemy collaborators. Assumptions, never corrected, do not soften. Discipline, when left unchecked, sharpens. Decades passed this way. Then, in the early 1970s, a young Japanese traveler named Norio Suzuki decided to search for Hiroo Onoda. He believed the story was real. He believed Onoda was still alive. And he was right. When they finally met, there was no shouting, no confrontation, just two men speaking calmly in the jungle. Suzuki told him the war was over. Onoda listened, carefully. Then he said he would surrender only if ordered to do so by his commanding officer, not symbolically, literally. The Japanese government took this seriously. They found Onoda's former commander, now an elderly man, working in a bookstore. They flew him to the Philippines. In February of 1974, nearly 30 years after the war ended, the order was finally given. The mission was over. Onoda bowed. He handed over his rifle. He saluted. 30 years of war ended, not with gunfire, not with blood, but with words. Returning home was harder than surviving the jungle. Japan felt unreal, too fast, too loud, too casual. Discipline had softened. Purpose felt optional. The world did not need him. That was harder to accept than hunger, illness, or isolation. Onoda had lived inside a system where everything had meaning, where survival was duty, where identity was clear. Peace offered freedom, but also emptiness. It's tempting to simplify this story, to praise loyalty, to condemn obsession, to decide if Onoda was a hero or a relic. But the deeper truth won't cooperate. Onoda wasn't remarkable because he survived. He was remarkable because a system outlived reality, because instructions without expiration dates can trap people inside them, because meaning, once constructed, resists revision, because discipline, when never recalibrated, becomes indistinguishable from captivity. The jungle was not Onoda's prison. Time was. And the question this story leaves behind isn't about war. It's about US. How many of us are still following rules written for a world that no longer exists? How many identities are built around missions that quietly ended years ago? How many battles are still being fought simply because no one ever said, it was over? Endurance is not the hardest survival skill. Letting go is knowing when the mission is truly finished and having the courage to step out of the jungle when it is.